Jesus, please don't be mad. I know that it makes you sad when I simply don't.
Hey, welcome to Faiths of Appalachia. These are hidden stories of value and faith, a podcast where we explore personal narratives, really just looking at individual stories of how they're exploring their faith and how they make meaning in life, particularly in Central Appalachia, where so often people believe Appalachia is kind of a monocultural, one type of person area. And I'm very excited for this conversation because I believe that Central Appalachia is filled with beautiful diversity. My name is Rob Music. I'm a chaplain and a priest, and I'm really excited for the conversation today. I'm really thankful also to Kentucky Humanities. Kentucky Humanities has graciously sponsored this podcast, and today our guest is Wally. Wally, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Happy to be here. I think it's a really good opportunity to talk about, like you said, the different religions and different stories that people in Appalachia have, and just be able to share it and let everybody else know the diversity of this place. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got kind of a rock star. You've been doing all this research.
Mm-hmm.
You're
really,
you're a quite accomplished student already. So what's some of the things you've done so far?
In terms of research and stuff?
I mean, just like your student resume.
Okay.
You're in the pre-dental club, right? Or something?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm a presidential scholar here, so just a little good way to get everything paid for, and just an honor to have, honestly, to be here. I'm in the OMSP, which is the Osteopathic Medical Scholars Program here at the university. So another good opportunity for students wanting to go into the pre-med program, and you can even go into dental or medicine with that, but just a good opportunity and a good pathway to really have. Other than that, I've been doing some research with at the medical school with Dr. Hahn in the summertime, so it's a good way to spend my summers. And on a regular, I've been working with Dr. Mead with the mushrooms and all that, so that's another really good and unique type of research that we're doing here. So just a couple things that I've been up to.
Just a couple. I mean,
Just
if people don't know, presidential scholar is like the highest award you can get at the university. Our best and brightest. So you're that doing research on multiple things, and we traveled together.
Right,
we went to Guatemala, which is fantastic.
Very, very good trip. I think about it all the time. All those
and you're one of those students who highly popular, very social, doing really excellent in the classroom. Because so often there's this myth of a student who's maybe into studies is kind of like this.
Just quieter
and
and a little more introverted. But I just think that like being able to talk to people really like opens up my scope for different research scholarships and programs like that, because if you're quiet, you interact with people less. And the way that I've gotten stuff is like talking to people, really selling myself and advertising myself as a hardworking student and trying to get myself and my foot into all the doors and everything. So
that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
I appreciate it.
So you obviously want to be a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you have a desired type of doctor yet?
I don't yet. I know that I want to go into that field, but I haven't really decided anything yet. And I do believe that I have some time to think over that and really narrow it down to exactly what I want to do.
Wow.
But that's still up in the air.
Okay. And very supportive family. I know both your parents are working here, both very smart people. But you weren't always born and raised in Pikeville.
Yeah.
So where did you spend most of your time?
So I was born in Pakistan, and we moved as a family to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So not small city, not a big city, medium-sized city, 40 minutes out from Toronto. So pretty good population. And I lived there for 15 years and went to elementary school, middle school, and a couple of years of high school there. And we moved to Pikeville 2020. So right during COVID, we moved here. Completed junior and senior year of high school here at Pikeville Independent, and then got into UPike. So a little rundown of my moving along the years. Yeah.
So do you feel more, and I don't even know if this is a vibe, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Do you feel more Canadian or do you feel more American?
A lot of people ask me that, especially when we go back to Canada to go see family and friends. This is like, I'm not saying this because I'm from here and I'm saying it to you guys, but I genuinely feel more American. Like, I just feel like I belong here so well. And I know that may sound like the cheesy answer or whatever, but that's honestly how I feel. Like just the way that I've been able to adapt to Pikeville, and just everything about this university just like allows me to be myself here, and I just feel so homely, and I feel like I belong here. And I've been here for more than 5 years now. It feels way longer than 4 or 5 years.
When I first met you, I never thought that you had any time away from outside of Pikeville.
I know,
you were such
I know.
a natural
Yeah.
here. Well,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Well, as a young man, tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey then.
So I was born and raised in a Muslim household, so we believe in Islam. But I feel like as I've gotten more freedom and been able to spend time on my own, so like in college and everything, it's really allowed me to try to experience Islam for myself. So most of the times you're born into a family and they follow a certain religion, and you're obviously more likely to follow that religion, stay with that religion. You're born in it. You do all the traditions and everything that comes with that. But I feel like that more that I'm getting freedom and I'm getting older, I'm really able to experience everything for myself and tend to choose Islam on my own and not just follow because my family does or my friends and my relatives have. So I would say that I think religion is a really long journey. It's a never-ending journey, and you can never achieve the completion of religion. It's like it's an everyday process, an everyday thing, and faith is always growing, and you're always getting better at it. And so I think I'm in that stage of just really experiencing it on for myself and for my own self, and seeing how I can implement it in my life. So
wow, that's really great. So when you were a kid, right, growing up in a Muslim home,
Right.
was there anything as a kid? Like I know people tell me all the time about like being like going to church. And like I was a little kid, I like hated doing that because my parents would sit me blah blah blah. Was there anything about that when you were growing up that either you really liked or you really didn't like?
I think that's a good question. I think most of my family was really into religion, so we would be in the mosque environment and going, and all of our family, everything would revolve around that, praying and just everything that comes along with religion. Obviously, there was some stuff that I didn't like we would go to the mosque for a couple hours at a time, and as a kid, you're just like, your life is moving really fast, so you would just want to be doing fun and just with your friends and everything. So I don't think I was the biggest fan of that, but now that I have we have a busy schedule and you're more focused on stuff like academics and hanging out with friends and everything, you realize that like when you were growing up, that time was like a time where you were building your foundations for everything. So I might not have liked it when I was growing up, but I can, like now when I go to the mosque or something and I'm not spending as much time as I can, obviously, I'm just able to cherish what I had, and I can really thank what I'm getting right now. So I would say that's something that I've gained to like more. We would have summer camps and stuff like that in the mosque, and we would have Sunday school. I think many people go to stuff like that, just Sunday schools and everything. But that was something I really enjoyed because they would bring in a more exciting aspect into religion, seeing other children that you're growing up with and playing with and incorporating fun and activities into religion, going on trips with other people who are like you and just realizing that religion can also be fun and enjoyable at the same time. So that's something that I really, really enjoyed growing up.
Now, did you have any kind of like language study too? Did you have to learn Arabic or anything?
Yeah. So our first language is Urdu, so that's the language of Pakistan. So I honestly think that was my first language. So growing up in a Pakistani household, that's what we spoke first. And I learned English as I went to school. So English is my second language. I wouldn't even say English is my first language. And Arabic is the religion language. So many people learn the religion, and I've studied it for so many years. So I went to a private Muslim school in elementary school. So 8 years of elementary school. It was just like a class you would have like Spanish or French. We learned it every single year. We would have reading classes, writing classes. We would have speaking classes, and that would be incorporated into the religion. So most of our classes were revolving around Arabic, and even with my mosque and everything, Sunday school and everything, we would learn Arabic, and it's just really important in the language, just so you can understand what God says and everything. So Arabic was primarily language learning. Urdu I spoke as my first language, and English was also learned in school. So 3 main languages.
Oh, that's very
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
As a guy that only speaks one, I'm very
Yeah.
impressed. So,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about like a transition from, when you're a kid, you're into whatever your parents are into, your family's into.
Right.
Then you become a teen, and now here you are as a young adult making some decisions on your
Right.
own. And what's it been like to try to like personalize those choices that you want to make for your religious practice?
Okay. So, like I said before, I think when you're a kid, you pick up the most. So, like, I think, like, learning all those languages, if I tried to do that now, it would be so much more difficult, like, learning them. But I think when you're a kid, you learn so much quicker, you pick up on stuff more. So, everything that I was taught as a child and, staying in good environments and being blessed with that, it really shaped my ability to know what's right and what's wrong. And right and wrong can be different for everybody, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying for what I believe and what I consider is my right and my wrong. So now that I'm given more freedom, and spending more time with friends instead of family, everything that I was raised on, I can and have the ability to implement it in my daily life. So, when that comes to making decisions, or there's a lot of like stuff, I wouldn't say stuff you need to do, but like stuff that's recommended in Islam, and stuff that's recommended against. So just knowing that in the back of my mind, and coming face to face with different experiences and different people, and just everything like that, knowing what's right in the back of my mind, I can really shape what I choose to do and what I stay away from. So and I also guess that, like, the more you experience freedom and time away from your family, you pick up on more stuff. So it just all really shapes on my right and wrong, if that really answers
Yeah, I
the
think
question.
that's really interesting, right? So
Yeah.
it's more like less than like let's say a particular practice, but more
Right.
of it kind of gives you a framework to understand life and
Right.
what's good action, what's bad action, and
Exactly.
what's and then you're also thinking like, oh yeah, like that's actually that makes sense. That's a good thing for me,
Right. Right.
So, as you grow and develop in your own spiritual journey and all that, so what's it like to be? Because clearly, in Central Appalachia, there are not a ton of Muslims, right? Even though here at the university we have a
Yeah.
group that gathers
Right.
and prays
Right.
and all that,
Right.
but still, it's a minority,
Right. Exactly.
I mean, a strong
Yeah.
minority, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's it like to be? So, when you have particular, like, so for Ramadan, there's a group that are fasting,
Right.
but it's not like everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I understand your
So,
point.
what's it like to be a religious minority here?
Okay. So just to add on to what you were saying, so the nearest mosque that we have is 30 minutes away in Prestonsburg, and in Ramadan and on our Eid festivals and everything, I'd say we have a good like 30, 40 families. So obviously, like you said, strong minority, but there's still a good amount of people that practice it. And here at the university, med students, we have a couple in undergrad, but good amount of med students. So we gather on Fridays, we pray together and everything. So it is a minority, but there is still a good amount of people where if you need to reach out to somebody, or if you want to get together, there is people to do that. I think talking about yourself is a really good way for, like you were asking, how does it feel? I think most people can, like most of my friends and everything, they know that I'm Muslim. So getting questions and educating people about that is another good way to really spread yourself to an area where you're a minority. So another big difference between Canada and here was, in Canada, the place where we lived at, Muslims were, I wouldn't say majority, but we were there was a strong percentage of Muslims in Canada. So it's a big difference from when you come from someplace like that to someplace like here, coming from places where there's like cities like Mississauga and Toronto where there's a mosque on every single road. Like there's like mosques every single road. There's like a small mosque, and then a couple of roads down there's a big mosque where there's a bunch more people that gather there. And then coming to someplace like this, it's like a big it's like a shock in a sense, because like it's like, wow, there were so many Muslims and you were the norm almost there, and then you come here and you're a bit more of a minority and everything. So I guess just adapting and staying, like having events planned by the mosque where other Muslims are there, and really talking to them and getting to know other Muslims here and connecting with them. There's like 3 or 4 other Muslims in the undergrad, so just talking with them, and even in Ramadan, just knowing that they're fasting and you're fasting, and if you ever need anything, you know who you can reach out to. So it's just good knowing that you have a couple people that you can rely on. And I mean, everybody here has been so hospitable. Like, all my friends know that I'm Muslim, and I don't feel any sense of any sense of like not being welcomed or anything. But everybody realizes that like there's different types of people everywhere. Like, no two people are the same.
Sure.
Like, every person is going to have something about them that makes them diverse and makes them a little different from everybody else. So it's just being able to like allow that and like include them and everything. So I feel like it's really good here. If that answers your question, I don't know if I got my point across.
No, but I think that you go from a heavily concentrated area where, like you say, every street has a mosque almost, and now you're 30 minutes from one, and so you feel it a little bit. So you have to be more intentional about your community. And
Exactly.
So when you transitioned to the high school from going to school in Canada, you come to the high school. Were you the only Muslim in the high school?
There was one other person who was a year above me, and she was also Muslim. And she had a couple siblings who graduated before us. So my senior year, I was the only Muslim in high school, except for my brother. He was in 8th grade. Yeah. So, I mean, it was something.
Yeah.
And there was, like, again, there was a bunch more people of, like, different backgrounds and everything. So I didn't feel completely out. But I knew at the back of my mind that I was the only Muslim here. So that was something interesting.
I think that's an interesting kind of like, position. I remember moving overseas and being kind of in more of a distinctive group, and for the first time you really start thinking about like what's it mean to be the other or the difference, and then some things you kind of take for granted now. It's like, whoa, that really stands out because I'm not doing whatever they're doing,
Exactly.
So here you are, and now as you're growing and developing, I wonder who then becomes like a role model or a mentor or person you strive to be like. Of course, the prophet, of course, but like, is there anybody else that you really personally like have been important to you in your own faith?
I think, like, right when I heard that question, I immediately thought of my dad. So I think he's like the perfect example of a role model. So even when we were growing up, it was never do this, don't do this. It was, I think he really showed us that actions are more important than words. So being like, even in your faith, like just saying something doesn't mean as much as if you do it and you're showing God that you're connected and you're actually doing the action. So he was a really good example of showing his kids, like me and my brother, that doing something is more valuable than just saying it. And he never like pressured anything on us or anything, and just showed us through his example of how he lived his life, like everything that he was doing, and just taking us and including us in prayer and taking us to the mosque and just keeping us in that kind of environment. He made sure that we were on the religion and everything, and he was the one that like put us into different camps and really showed me how I want to live my life. Like showing, like he's like set the perfect example. I think he's so advanced, like he's so set in his faith and everything, and academics and everything too, and just showing me how you don't just have to be focused on one specific thing in your life. So you don't have to choose just faith. You don't have to just choose your career. You don't just have to choose your family, but you can be so well-rounded in every aspect that you can balance and manage all 3 of those aspects of your life and everything else that you have to, relationships with your parents, with your friends and everything. And just showed us how there's a balance. There is a way to manage everything. And even if you feel overwhelmed at some times and you feel like you're slacking on something, just giving it more time and focusing on something over the other just a bit to give it more importance and to really go back to that balance that you have. So just seeing his example, I think he's a really, really good role model. And on top of that, going to school in an Islamic school, teachers, I would say, some really, really, really good teachers who were just the most selfless people. Like all they wanted was the best for us, and seeing examples of them and family members, aunts and uncles, seeing how they just lived their life and everything. I think it's a really good environment that I was raised in. So just a bunch of role models, but I would say the person that I look up to the most would be my father.
Wow, that's like,
Yeah.
man, dad goals right there.
Right,
Kids
right.
say that.
I know.
Wow, that is so...
I don't think I've ever said that to his face. So if he listens to this, he'll be happy. But just everything that he's done, I'm so appreciative for.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
with your extended family, if you still have family in Pakistan, do they have, would their practice of Islam or being a Muslim feel different than maybe what it feels like in the States for you? Or have you ever, I mean, do you ever see that, like, you have cousins who are living someplace else,
Yeah.
and maybe the practice looks a little different than it does here?
I think about our religion, what it is that like everything is very very similar. So although like because they're living in a majority Muslim country, I think the Muslim population of Pakistan is probably in the mid 90s or
Yeah.
something. So obviously they have more more ability to practice it more freely, more openly, more easily, having mosques really close, living with all other Muslims, or even like I think that works with anything. Like if you live with more people that are like you, it's just easier for you to be like that.
Yeah.
Like I mean that's just like how everything works. But I wouldn't say there's anything drastic like I hear of they're doing something that's drastic or anything, but only small differences. Like I guess when there's more people, there's a little slightly different way that they do stuff. With Ramadan, there's two ways that you can determine when Ramadan starts. So there's one type of people that follow the moon sighting, so they actually look at the moon and see if the moon's out, that means the new month has started, the fast begins. Some other people, I think more, that's where we would differ a bit more. In the U.S. and in the West, because we can't really see the moon as clear as you can see other places around the world. We focus more on like NASA's like the sightseeing that NASA says, or like the calendar of like when the new month is supposed to start. So there's like a day or two off of when Ramadan starts for them and starts for us. But that's, again, nothing drastic, just different ways of doing it. So I wouldn't say anything too different, but just for them having more people around them that are Muslim, more easier than I would say for a smaller city in Kentucky like us.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
That's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And I like how you're talking about how Islam really is kind of, I don't want to say a standard set of practices, but really there are core practices that no matter, you could be on the moon, right? Like you're going to pray, you're going to fast, you're going to like, do that stuff. So, okay, that's really, really interesting. You know, you talked about fasting. I know that's one of the things that people were really interested in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's it like to take your month and to say, I'm going to fast, or maybe I fast for a day or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so counter our culture. Our culture is like, man, eat all the time, eat whatever you want, and here you are spiritually fasting for a practice. So what's it like for you when you fast?
That's an amazing question. So there's obviously, I think there's two different types of benefits of fasting. So there's obviously like, there's a lot of research on the health benefits of fasting. So there was something that was like, if you fast for a certain number of hours, like your whole body, like it recycles all of everything. And then, I mean, we eat so much bad food on a day. Like, honestly, just staying away from food for a day or something is like letting your body just settle and just everything recycle and replenish and everything. But then there's also the spiritual aspect that we have. So one of the major reasons that we fast is to really show ourselves and humble ourselves. So, you know, there's people all around the world in almost every country that, you know, homeless people don't have anything to eat and who are unfortunate, and obviously trying to help them out is really important. But really putting ourselves in their shoes and seeing that God has blessed us with the ability to eat on a regular basis, drink water and everything, and just putting yourself in their shoes and seeing life from how they live really like genuinely like humbles you and like shows you that there's so much more to life than, you know, your regular classes and your studies and everything that you're doing and focused about, but there's a bigger cause that you have. And giving, it helps you give back. And another one of our 5 pillars is charity. So we call it zakah, so charity, giving back to the poor and the needy. And then another benefit of Ramadan would also be, so there's three main things that we have to stay away from during Ramadan. So eating food, drinking water, and then relations with like a significant other. So, you know what I'm talking about there. So staying away from that really.
No sex.
Right. Yeah. So no sexual relationships. So staying away from all that really takes you a step back. You know, it gives you time to think. It gives you time to ponder over everything, and it's honestly a good refresh of the year. So you take a month, you start, and so the way we look at it is like you start Ramadan and you've lived the whole year, and your faith and your spiritual levels are kind of low. Like you've stayed the whole year, and you're praying and doing all that, but your faith might be slowing down a little. You're forgetting about the important stuff that you need to do in your religion. Ramadan hits and you're just on a go, and you're just focusing on religion so much. It's an amazing way to bring your faith levels up. And we pray at night, we don't eat, we don't do any of that, and we worship God, we read the Quran and everything. It's such a good way to, it's like a boost almost on your spiritual levels and everything. And then Ramadan ends, and we're, I'd say, 2 months after Ramadan, and my faith levels are pretty good going. And obviously, as the year goes, you keep doing your things, but just just how humans are, you just forget and you start to focus on other stuff. So it's a good refresh of the year. So that's another way that we think about it. So,
would you say, I know right now in our country, we're living in this highly spiritual but less religious time, right? And if anyone was not a Muslim, but what would be your campaign of, let's say, what is one helpful thing you say, I wished everyone could just take this from the faith? What is one thing you think everyone should take from Islam?
From Islam specifically?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Well, one thing I think one thing that applies to almost any religion or anything is Islam or any religion or anything that you believe in isn't the same for everybody. Like everybody has their own way of obviously doing doing everything that you have to, but there's just everybody has a different way of connecting to God, and there's no right or wrong. It's just all about your connection with God. And I think something that people could pick up from Islam would be just that idea. I think that there's no right or wrong, and if you're doing everything that you are and you're close to God, I think just furthering that relationship is really important. I think that's something that people could pick up from.
No, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's kind of the idea of, like you say, what I hear is exploration. I hear kind of personalization.
Yeah.
But in that, I know you've heard people say wild and crazy stuff at times, right?
Yeah.
I know that in my world, I'll hear people say something what the Bible says,
Right.
and I'm cringing because I'm like, oh, dude, that's not what that says at all. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So I'm sure you've heard people say things about Muslims or Islam.
Absolutely.
And what is one thing that you've heard you're like, dude, that is just wild?
I think there's people in every, I don't know if in every religion, but there's just people who just take everything to the next level. There's even, they'll claim that they're a Muslim or something and just take stuff to the absolute next level. And some stuff I've heard from people is the Quran encourages you to be violent or something crazy like that. And I've read the whole book multiple times and I've memorized a good amount of it. I'd say probably 40% of the book.
Wow.
just memorized.
Very impressive.
Growing up. Yeah. So nowhere in the book does it encourage you to do anything of that sort. And I think I don't blame people. I think that there's just a lot of miscommunication, and I think media plays a role in that too. Just people saying stuff, and I think that happens with anything though. That's how rumors are. There's rumors for everything. I could start a rumor right now and say the most wild thing, and if I keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it, and tell a couple other people to keep saying it and keep saying it, there's a point where people will question if this is actually true, and maybe some will start believing it too. So I think rumors are a bad thing that people just can start saying and people start believing on. And so I don't blame anybody for that, but I just wish that people would dig a bit deeper and really, I think, just like you were saying about the Bible too, people really can take things out of the wrong context, Very, very, very important. I could take something out of context. Somebody could say something. I could just take 3 words out of what they said and make it the craziest thing ever. But I think just looking at the holistic picture of something, and I wish people did more background research on stuff before they believe something. And you can say whatever you want, obviously, but if you're gonna really believe it, I want you to believe something that's correct. So,
Yeah, okay.
So.
I mean, just because I read it on Reddit
Right,
doesn't mean it's true.
on Reddit, exactly. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've also done that before, where somebody's saying something and I'll start believing it, and I'll even pass it forward, and then it'll hit me that, like, that was not correct, and I just said something and told somebody it was the truth when it really wasn't. So just double checking your facts before you're saying something and everything, and not jumping to conclusions. And I do that myself. I'll jump to conclusions all the time and everything, and I guess it's just human nature to do that.
Yeah.
But I really wish people would just take the time to look into stuff a bit more, So.
Yeah, well, there's always this urge of, like,
Right.
I gotta say something instantly, or I gotta
Right.
share,
Right,
and all
right,
that.
right.
And it's like,
Exactly.
probably should pause
Exactly.
for a second.
Just take that little second and just think. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever felt any kind of pressure to try to explain what it means to be Muslim
Mm-hmm.
or any of your practices to anybody before?
So most of my friends are Christian here,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my friends told me, he was like, the reason we talk to you about religion is because we want you to be a part of the right religion.
Well.
And I said, you know what? The same thing to you. The reason I'm talking to you about it is because, so you believe that your religion is correct, and you want, because we're best friends, you want me to, to be on the right path and the right religion and everything. And just like you, I believe that my religion is the correct one. So everything that I'm doing, trying to talk to you and trying to explain everything to you, is just out of my love for you. And, I consider you such a good friend and everything. So just talking to you. But I've had some really, really, really good conversations with friends here, like especially freshman year when I was getting to know my friends more. And we were still not as close as we are now, obviously. Just good conversations, and even argument, not like rough arguments or anything, but just going back and forth and stating stuff and everything, and just really trying to explain myself to them. And when you believe something, it's hard for you to change your beliefs, and same for them, same for me. But just trying to tell them and explain to them what I believe in. And no, like you were asking, I've never felt pressured where I got to explain myself, or I need to fight for myself and explain why I'm correct or anything. No, never. But I think just out of my love for them, and just hoping that they can understand where I'm coming from, honestly, just arguments and talking to them and stuff. And I honestly really enjoy those, like where they'll tell me stuff, and there's been times that they've told me stuff and I'm like, I never knew that, and it's like, wow, I'm happy that you told me that. And same with them, like they'll tell me something and they'll be like, we never knew that about Muslims, and you just telling us that has really opened up a lot more for us. So I think with friends and everything, and even stuff like this conversation we're having. And there was another time we did this. It was in the chapel over there, and it was me, there was a Buddhist, and there was a Christian, I think. And it was a sit down. We just talked about different aspects of our religion and where we differ and where we're similar. And there were so many points where there was overlap, in all of our religions. And it's so amusing to see that. And even our stories and everything, I'll talk to my friends about it, and they'll be like, hey, we have the same story. And so it's just really good to see the overlap in that, and see the similarities in religion, and you honestly realize how similar you are to them, And people may think that there's big differences. There's obviously some differences, but at the end of the day, we believe in God, and we're just hoping for the best, So no, I've never had to fight for myself, but I just love having sit downs with you and friends and everything to just see where we're similar and where we differ, and where we have common ground. So.
Yeah, well, I love that too. You're fostering and grew up in an environment where you're really open to learn and dialogue and experience difference, and I mean, that's just so refreshing in our world where people are kind of getting really locked in their ways and their traditions. So I guess the final question I have is, what you were talking about inside your own faith is, at times the religion can be prescriptive, meaning that there are designated times where you fast, and there are designated times where you pray, and so those are kind of clear ones. During Ramadan, many Muslims are going to fast, or during times of prayer, people are going to be praying. But is there anything else about the religion that informs your life, such as, does it tell you who you're going to marry, or anything like? Is there anything else in ways that it's to really be a Muslim, I really need to shape my life this way?
So Like the one you said for marriage, no, there's nothing on that. There's no requirements. You're obviously encouraged to marry another Muslim, so you can carry the religion on through your kids. If you know how they say like kids look at their kids like even like with me, like we look up to our parents so much. Everything that they do, I want to do. So marrying another Muslim obviously would allow you to raise a family where the children who are who you'll be raising are in that environment again.
Yeah.
But some more stuff. So we have 5 pillars. So we have the prayer. So these 5 pillars are mandatory in our religion.
Okay.
So prayer, fasting, like you said, giving the charity, and there's a trip where we have to make once in our life. It's called Hajj. It's in English it translates to pilgrimage. So we go to Saudi Arabia. There's the Mecca, which is where. So when we pray towards that. It's like it's in Mecca, the city in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. So another requirement of religion is to go there if you're healthy and you're wealthy enough to make the trip down there to go to Mecca. And the last one is just believing and saying your belief verbally that you believe in God and the Prophet. So that's one of the requirements. So these are the 5 main requirements that we have. Then there's obviously things that like we're forbidden from. So like eating pork is another thing, and drinking alcohol, we're not allowed to do that. And so staying away from stuff like that. But I would just say stuff like this is the requirements to be a Muslim. But everything else that you do is extra to get closer to God or to better yourself or just strengthening your religion. So there's not too many requirements and forbiddances, but just these are just some of the core stuff that I just listed.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about the pilgrimage.
Right.
Is that something you've done yet?
So there's like a smaller version of it where you can just go and just see it, but there's like a couple steps that you have to do. I haven't done the proper one yet. My parents have, but I've been there twice now to Saudi Arabia, to Mecca, just prayed in the mosque and just seen everything. So I hope to do that one day.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realize there were like different like versions of it.
There's just 2 main ones. There's one called Hajj, so that's the one that we're required to do, and there's a smaller one. It's called Umrah, Umrah. So it's not to that level of the Hajj. It's just you can go there and it's just like praying in there and just saying that you visited Mecca and everything. So
that's cool. You taught me something that I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the great thing is that I mean, just in your big personality, everyone loves you on campus. You've been such a great fit here at UPike, and I just really appreciate you being willing to share today, teach us a little bit more, but also to dialogue about things that are important to you, but as you also are trying to figure it out as a young adult, right? Because I suspect if I would make it another 50 years, which would be awesome, and I'm talking to like a person who's almost ready to retire in their career, that it might sound a little different.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that, the willingness to kind of grow and evolve and develop and learn. So anyways, hey man, I appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
when I simply don't know